We got tons to get to. We will talk about that NFC West battle that the Seahawks won against the Cardinals last night. But lots of news right now going on with the New Orleans Saints, and these people right here cannot wait to talk about it. You see Ryan Clark already dancing, Marcus Spears there, and Mina Kimes, and we're going to have Field Yates as well with some more details on injuries and more. But let's get right to it, okay? Adam Schefter reporting that Taysom Hill will be the starting quarterback for the Saints over Jameis Winston. Of course, Drew Brees was injured last week. Now Hill, he's been a versatile piece of the offense, getting the reins against the Falcons Sunday. But then just moments ago, Sean Payton, the head coach of the Saints, was asked about this, says he's not naming a starter yet. Take a listen.
Who are we talking about?
I'm sorry, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I'm sorry too, because I haven't announced that either one of those two are starting.
So that was just leaked by someone else, I guess, today?
I didn't see today or what you're talking about. Someone has been named the starter, but we haven't announced it.
Okay, so that's the first time that they've heard the sound because it just came in. Mina, I'm looking at your face. Marcus, you're laughing. You go first. What do you think about all this now?
Me? I'm going first?
You're going first right now. Yes.
Okay, listen. I know the reports, and I'm not finna get into what the reports, all of that stuff. I know that this is smart by Sean Payton. This is a football tactic. I've said that. This is a football tactic. Now, for all intents and purposes, Schefter never gets it wrong. Very rarely does he ever get it wrong. So I expect Taysom Hill to be the starter. But with that being said, why would Sean Payton give the Atlanta Falcons any information about what they're going to do from an offensive standpoint? So he's playing coy. He's playing like he doesn't know. He said we named the starter, but no one knows. This is ultimate gameplay by Sean Payton, who, by the way, was the offensive coordinator when I first got to Dallas. This is what Sean Payton does, and this is not good for the Atlanta Falcons.
My only regret
don't be looking
is
at me
that
like that.
This report... I cannot wait to get to Ryan, and I wish this news had broken during NFL Live because you would have seen Ryan's brain break in real time, and it would have just been absolutely incredible television. His eyes would have bugged out of his head. Okay, so the reason we're all surprised is not because of who Taysom Hill is, it's because of who he isn't, or rather who he wasn't last year, which was the Saints quarterback. Drew Brees didn't play for 6 games, and they went with Teddy over Taysom. Drew Brees went out with an injury last week, and they went with Jameis over Winston. That's why everybody is so surprised. Now, approaching this purely from a football perspective, Marcus is 100% right. This introduces an element of gamesmanship, of surprise. The Falcons are going to have to prepare for this, and also the possibility that it's all smoke and mirrors. I will say this, though. The Falcons do have a surprisingly decent run defense, and something I would be concerned about in this game if I'm New Orleans, other than, I guess, the question of whether Taysom Hill can play quarterback, which we really don't know, is the fact that Taysom Hill fumbled the ball 4 times last year, which by my math is almost as many times as he's completed passes in the NFL. So that's something I'd be concerned about as well.
Listen, I don't know nothing about no math, all right? Because there go Mina bringing up math. This is not a math situation. This is about reality. And the New Orleans Saints and the Taysom Hill saga, when the 30 for 30 comes out, whenever, it's going to be touching because they're going to talk about the injuries at BYU, being undrafted at 24, and then they're going to get into this reality show that's been him with the Saints, right? Because for a little bit, it was like punked. Remember, because you remember Punk, things would happen and it would be tricked. Sean Payton's been trying to trick us for a very long time. Sean Payton has been punking us for years, right? Steve Young, Steve Old, whatever you want to call him. Taysom is the next caller. He's going to be, he's going to be freaking Hall of Fame and all this, right? And then Taysom Hill, if he's going to start, he's obviously been catfishing us because somewhere in there is a real quarterback that he just hasn't shown. Right? So he's been playing the role of somebody else while he was always this other person because he's been playing the role of a dude that can't really throw the football. But obviously, if he's going to start, we're getting catfish, and Taysom Hill is way more than we saw. But then they switched all the way from MTV and went to more hard-hitting reality shows like First 48 because now somebody done read it. because Taysom Hill is the quarterback. But what Sean Payton has said, one of y'all told. And if you watched First 48, which I know some of you do, they always tell. All this stuff about stop snitching, code of the street, how they was on Goodfellas, that is not right. They always rat. So Taysom Hill's gonna start, and either he's been catfishing us, punking us, or something, or they gonna run the ball 47 times and have to rush for 400 yards to win the game, because Taysom Hill can't throw.
Yeah.
He's like Tebow if Tebow was faster and couldn't throw.
You know what? I do like the first 48. Let's get some numbers on this as well as a comparison. Looking at the tail of the tape, the Saints going with the far less experienced Taysom Hill. Although his career total QBR slightly better than Winston's, Jameis certainly has the edge when it comes to experience as a passer, ranking second in passing yards through a player's first 5 NFL seasons with only Peyton Manning ahead of him. The turnovers have been the issue. By the way, Sean Payton, by last check, was still talking. We got people in our production room. It's called a control room, whatever it's called. They're listening to it right now. So if anything else happens, we're going to bring it to you guys. But Mina, you mentioned the fact that the Falcons do have a good run defense.
Yeah.
If we do see
Surprisingly.
Taysom Hill as the starter, which Sean Payton still didn't want to tell us for sure, what do you think the Saints offense really does look like with him in there?
I think that it's obviously going to be very run heavy, because what we have seen out of Taysom Hill in the preseason and then his very limited starts is that he has not been super accurate on the sort of underneath stuff that the Saints thrive in. So I imagine we're going to see him booting out a lot. There's going to be a lot of trickery. But I think Ryan perhaps inadvertently mentioned the key number, which is 30. You talked about a 30 for 30 being made about Taysom Hill. Well, Jameis Winston had 30 picks last year, and Taysom Hill is 30 years old. To me, the Saints had to decide which of these 30s is worse. The fact that we got a dude who turns the ball over that much, or a dude who's getting his first NFL start at 30, and they went with the 30-year-old, and we're going to see how it goes.
We're going to be all over this all show long, so don't worry about that. Let's bring Field Yates in for more. And sometimes, Field, when things don't make a whole lot of sense or they seem abnormal, the reasoning can always be traced back to money. Tell us why the contracts for both Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill could be factoring in here.
Well, Laura, one thing that I've always maintained is that the Saints actually love Taysom Hill more than the internet likes and loves Taysom Hill. We see it every Sunday when he's utilized in a small package when Drew Brees is the normal starting quarterback. Twitter loses its mind, but the Saints keep going back to the well. And you think back to this offseason when Shefty tweeted that the Saints had signed Taysom Hill to a 2-year contract. That part would be fine, except for the fact that it's worth $21 million. It was the latest sign that Sean Payton and the Saints believe very strongly in Taysom Hill. They ended up signing Jameis Winston for a base value of just $1.1 million. I'm not here to tell you that Taysom Hill is unquestionably going to be better than what Jameis Winston could be if given starting opportunities. But while this news was shocking when we first heard it today, it wasn't all that surprising when you think back to the investment that the Saints have made in Taysom Hill. They've been working hard to develop him for the past few years, and they rewarded him with their faith this offseason. So part of me is thinking backwards as we look forwards to Sunday in this decision to make Hill the starter.
Yeah, it's interesting there on your bottom line. It was another report that coming from ESPN's Diana Rossini talking about the fact that there's not even an offensive package for Jameis Winston in this game plan, apparently. So much more coming your way on NFL Live today as we continue to break down everything going on with the Saints and much more. But let's get to last night as well, featuring a QB showdown in Seattle. Find out how Seattle's defense was able to stifle Kyler and the Cardinals. Plus, Las Vegas got the better of Patrick Mahomes last time these two teams squared up, but can they do it again? Raiders and Chiefs. What Derek Carr needs to do Sunday to sweep the season series. NFL Live is presented by Campbell's Chunky Soup that eats. Cardinals, Seahawks.
Play fake. Russ is going to roll. Now he's going to throw to the end zone. Touchdown! Seahawks!
Fires over the middle. It is caught for a touchdown by Dan Arnold. Now there's some pushing and shoving. Drake Kirkpatrick. Get off the field. It's 4th down.
The handoff to Hyde. He is in. Touchdown! Seahawks! This is the ball game for Arizona. Empty backfield. Murray takes the snap. Gets hit. Goes down. Seahawks sack. And the Hawks are going to win this game at Lumen Field.
The NFC West, also known as the most competitive division in football. And last night's Seahawks win over the Cardinals featured a Russell Wilson who took care of that football. Moved ahead of Steve Young, by the way, for the highest all-time winning percentage in primetime matchups. Apparently, he likes the spotlight. More importantly, though, this win puts the Seahawks in prime position to secure the NFC West. According to our Football Power Index, Seattle now holds a 51% chance to win the division. Lots of implications for last night. Seattle came through. And Marcus, you wanted to see more from Carlos Dunlap on that Seattle defense, of course, coming over from the Bengals in a trade. What did he show you last night?
Man, in the honor of Jeezy and Gucci Man having a versus battle last night, I like to say what it do, what the business is. Because that defense for the Seattle Seahawks showed up. They gave up 21 points. They closed out a game. The trade looked magnificent for Carlos Dunlap. They needed that in a major way. But I also want to bring something else to people's attention. That holding call that happened in the end zone that resulted in a safety, that's considered a great pass rush move, but it also is considered a big-time defensive play by the D tackle. So they came ready to play. Shaq Collar down, got to him, didn't really give up many explosive plays. At times I was frustrated because I thought the DBs were giving these wide receivers a little too much respect by playing off. But for the most part, this Seattle Seahawks defense, if they can continue to uptick like that against an offense who we all respect in this league, then we can start talking about Seattle being in the Super Bowl conversation again out of the NFC. But it's to be determined if they can keep this up and keep that type of momentum going. They were great last night when it came to making sure that Russ had the ball enough and making key stops in key situations.
I try not to go too homerish talking about Seattle, but also in honor of GZ, I put on for my city, and I was impressed. The only thing I didn't like about that Carlos Dunlap sack, Marcus, is that he's wearing number 43. It just doesn't look right. You guys know, right? Like watching him get those sacks with the number 43, it's weird. He doesn't feel right. I want to talk about Russell Wilson in the offense, though, because I think we saw like a vintage Russ performance. It was very efficient. And what really jumped out to me was that he didn't look like a sitting duck back there when he was getting blitzed, which is what's happened over the last few weeks. Some of that is that he was hitting his hot reads. He went 10 for 10 against the blitz. A lot of it also is that they were able to mix in runs. And it wasn't excessive. They still passed more than they ran, but that Carlos Hyde really ran the ball efficiently. He averaged over 5 yards per carry. And an efficient run game, Mina Kimes, notorious hater of early down runs, is saying this, can be a quarterback's best friend in situations like that. You saw that with Seattle last night.
Yeah, Ryan Clark, if you don't have a Jeezy quote yourself, I'm going to be really disappointed here, but I am going to ask you about Kyler Murray. So what do you think about Kyler and the Cardinals going forward?
Listen, I think Kyler Murray, he's a little early, right? He's a little early on his development. This team's a little early in getting to this point where they are contending for the NFC West. Let's not forget, just 2 years ago, this team moved on from a top 10 pick at quarterback in Josh Rosen. They move on from Steve Wilks. They go out, get Cliff Kingsbury, and they draft Kyler Murray. I think to be at this point after a big fight against Seattle to win a game with 3 turnovers by Russ, after having a Hail Murray to have to win against the Buffalo Bills, I think that their record shows us a little bit or says a little bit more about them than they truly are. And then when you have Kyler Murray, he's out there fighting, his shoulder is hurting. He's really what some would call a sole survivor during those times late on in the game, and he was trying to make some plays, and he just couldn't. This defense really stepped up. This defense really stepped up for Seattle. And listen, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals will have their time. But right now, isn't it, Russ still runs the division from the quarterback position, and last night he outplayed the young second-year player from Arizona.
Woven in so beautifully, Ryan. One thing, Kyler Murray was limited to a season-low 15 yards on the ground. That factored in. The Cardinals now 0-5-1 when Murray runs for less than 20 yards. We got more coming your way on NFL Live, and both the Titans and Ravens have had their share of recent struggles. Why one person here thinks these teams have lost their identity? Who gets it right Sunday to continue a playoff push? I am so glad we got Jeezy in the show. I was hoping you guys would come through, but I just can't always count on you, you know?
Yeah.
ATL.
The recession is.
Junkie Soup.
Believe in each other, believe in yourself, and let's have so much freaking fun. the energy, the passion. We're playing football.
Mahomes is carrying him off the field.
These guys are playing a kid's game, getting paid for it.
To the back of the end zone, celebrating. He makes the catch, touchdown, Tampa Bay.
I think it's fun winning in general.
How about those Tua touchdown?
Great job. What a play from Aaron Rodgers.
We keep winning and having fun with these guys. That's all that matters.
How much fun are you having? How much fun is this team having?
Probably the coolest 15 minutes of my life.
Wide open, Tyreek Hill.
Just had to just lob it out there.
I don't think either team likes each other that much.
They can't stop us now. We got to keep going.
This is ridiculous. Next question.
Week 11 already off to a great start. It's only going to get better. And yeah, we've got the Chiefs and the Raiders once again. Now, remember the last time they faced off, and of course the Raiders won this game, but it was really in the second half where the Raiders started to take control. They played exactly how they needed to, and the Chiefs, admittedly, on their end, were not up to par. The question is, can this be done again? And listen, when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, you'd like to have your full defensive complement like all week long. Phil Yates here with us. The Raiders have a lot of their defense on the reserve COVID-19 list. So what is the path for them to play in this game?
Yeah, Laura, unfortunately for the Raiders, this is actually familiar territory, as it was just a few weeks ago where basically the entire Raiders offensive line was unable to practice during the week coming off of their bye because of contact tracing. Well, as you just said, much of their defense unable to practice right now as they are also in contact tracing. The path to them all playing is continuing to test negative. The expectation is that tomorrow by 4 p.m. Eastern time, many of those players, if not all of the players that have been placed on COVID-19 because of close contact, not those that have tested positive, will be removed from the list. The last barrier is to test negative again on Sunday. As we know, that's the case for every NFL player, but because these guys have been classified as high-risk close contacts, we'll watch their tests even closer. I would say this, though, Laura, the NFL feels pretty good about this game, all things considered. As we know, the last time the Raiders were in this situation, their Sunday night primetime game got moved out of the window. Here they are, still scheduled to play Sunday night at 8 o'clock against the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's a good point, Field. Stay right there. We got more coming from you. Ryan, you just heard what Field Yates had to say about this on the Raiders defense. What do you think the impact is of those guys not being able to practice really that much ahead of this game?
Oh, well, shoot, you hope it's the type of impact that not practicing had on Ben Roethlisberger, because if you can do that, then why ever practice? Just stay at home and homeschool your kids. But when you're looking at the Raiders and going up against Patrick Mahomes, it's almost like it doesn't even matter anyway. You know what he's going to do. You know what type of player he's going to be. Maybe resting helps. And the thing I worry about with this defense is if it's the secondary players. The secondary is extremely young. The secondary needs that type of communication during the week. You need to be able to understand what you're going to get out of certain formations and have it play out before you. Because when you're going up against Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes, the thing you don't want to be is confused. The thing you don't want to be is on a different page, because any type of crease, any type of opening, they can take advantage of it. So that's going to be the huge part. Do you understand the playbook? Do you know what you need to do?
Listen, I hate that these players have to go through this, but it didn't matter. Patrick Mahomes about to go crazy. Everybody know it. Everybody understands what transpired in the first game of the season against the Raiders. The Raiders took a Nipsey Hussle victory lap around the stadium. All of that stuff is being calculated. You and I, L Boogie, we talk. L Boogie is what I call Laura Rutledge, America. You and I talked to Travis Kelce a few days ago, all right? And Travis Kelce said he didn't hold people accountable. He held himself responsible for not playing the way that they're supposed to play. And I believe the Kansas City Chiefs angry is the scariest thing in the NFL. And that's what they'll be against the Raiders. And if the Raiders can somehow produce offensively like they did in the first game, I'm going to go to Kansas City and pull Steve Spagnuolo aside and ask him, why in the hell couldn't you stop the Raiders from putting up 40 points twice? Okay? But outside of that, Patrick Mahomes and this offense and Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, listen, I'm going. If they give up 40, I'm going to Kansas City. All right? And the bottom line is this. The Kansas City Chiefs offense and Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes are petty. They are petty, but petty in a good way. Don't think for a second that they're not going to try to put on an offensive extravaganza against the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, Mina.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mina, Derek Carr had a couple of really nice throws in that game last time when they beat the Chiefs. So how can he perform so well in this game that Marcus Spears has to go to Kansas City?
He did, Laura. He was excellent in that game, and it kind of unlocked something in Derek Carr, right? Which was specifically the deep ball. He's been a different guy since then. He's been actually really good this season. He's the best quarterback that we're not really talking about. Third down, QBR. Best quarterback in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes. Second best has been Derek Carr. I think drafting Ruggs has really been great for him. Aguilar has been excellent too. And they're going to have to be excellent in this game because Marcus is right. This is going to be a horse race. Like all they can do is try to keep up. I've been trying to think of another Jeezy joke ever since you said go crazy, Marcus, and I've been struggling. But I think you were spot on with that one. The Doughboys are coming to town. So it's all on Derek Carr, man. It's a lot of pressure on him, but he has been playing up to that standard.
Yeah, listen, why are no one's talking about Gucci? Like, everyone's just talking about Jeezy. I guess
Jeezy better shout out NFL Live.
Yeah, he better. By the way, the Chiefs and the Raiders scoring on over 52% of their drives. That ranks first and second in the NFL on the leaderboard this season. Let's get some more injury news with Field Yates, and we begin with Drew Lock. Field, what do you know about him?
Yeah, Drew Lock has been banged up this week, Laura. We got a lot of quarterback injuries, but this one I think is the most up in the air. He's been dealing with some ribs issues. A guy that obviously has missed time once so far this season. It could be Brett Rippon taking snaps for the Broncos. Other quarterbacks to keep an eye on include Teddy Bridgewater, who, of course, left last week's game late because of a knee injury, officially listed as questionable. And then Matthew Stafford has that thumb issue that's been bothering him a bit this week, has been limited and practiced quite a bit as a result of it. Tough guy. I expect him to be out there on Sunday for the Lions. And some recent news from the Packers, and good news at that, is that Davante Adams, their all-everything wide receiver, sat out practice Wednesday, Thursday as well. He's not even on the injury report. That tells you everything you need to know. We are at the point of the season where load management will be a thing for teams. So Davante Adams will be good to go. And they play the Colts on Sunday, who have been one of the best pass defenses in the entire NFL.
Yeah, good news for Aaron Rodgers, though, either way. All right, talk to me about Myles Garrett, placed on the reserve COVID-19 list, not going to play on Sunday against the Eagles. What else do we know about him?
Yeah, Laura, interesting news this morning. As just minutes apart, the Browns released two separate statements, one saying that a player had tested positive for COVID-19. Minutes later, they announced they were placing Myles Garrett on the reserve COVID-19 list. Now, I think people are going to assume that means he has tested positive, as he has been out of the building for a few days, experiencing some flu-like symptoms. We do not know for sure, and teams are not allowed to disclose if a player has tested positive. Here's what we know, though. He's out for Sunday's game against the Eagles. And we'll see. He could be in some peril of missing next week's game as well. And when you talk about the list of Defensive Player of the Year candidates, if Myles Garrett's not at the top of it, he's right there, just a spot below Aaron Donald. Those two have been on another level this year. So this is a big, big blow for the Browns and a huge game on Sunday.
Yeah, Myles Garrett leads the NFL this season with 9.5 sacks, also tied with Marlon Humphrey for the league lead with 4 forced fumbles. Marcus, how big of a deal is it to be without Myles Garrett?
It's a huge deal, and I know Carson Wentz is a man of faith, and he understands that prayer changes things, because I'd have been praying for Myles Garrett not to play too, based on what he's been doing all season long. But this definitely makes it a bit harder for everybody else around him. The thing about Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald, and we talk about these guys in this vein, is that he makes things easier for all of the guys around him. This defense benefits from the fact that Myles Garrett is on the field. You have to slide protection. You have to make sure you have an extra blocker over there for him. So he initiates plan changes for the offenses that he's going against. Trust me, Doug Peterson had a plan in place to try to handle Myles Garrett. That's what these type of players do. I played with DeMarcus Ware. It was the same way. RC played with Palomalu and some other great defensive players. It was the same way. You had to account for them every single play. And when you remove them, guys' jobs get harder that's around them. So I want to see how Cleveland defense responds.
Yeah, it could be a good prove-it moment for them either way. And we've got more coming your way on NFL Live. A big matchup with the Packers and the Colts this Sunday. Darius Leonard's going to be extra motivated. They countdown along with interviews with Big Ben and Aaron Rodgers. For now, let's dig in on the Titans and Ravens looking to get their seasons back on track.
You're down 3 scores at the end. Obviously, it's a sick feeling.
And we just fell short. Can't do anything about it.
He can't go win the big game. That's where Lamar is.
Lamar Jackson intercepted for a pick 6.
This team has trouble.
Colts blocking. It's picked up. Special teams. How about ya?
Too many mistakes. We weren't very good in all 3 phases. We need to play better. Losing's difficult to win.
Jackson takes the snap. He'll keep it on the quarterback draw. Ball came loose, and the Ravens are going to come up short.
No defensive coordinator scared to play them.
They calling out our plays like they know what we're doing.
The air of invincibility is gone.
So who are these teams really, the Titans and the Ravens? Well, this may be a good time to find out. Keep an eye on Lamar Jackson going against the Titans man coverage Sunday. Jackson boasts the 5th best QBR against man since he entered the league. He'll have a great chance to do some damage against Tennessee's secondary potentially. The Titans have been one of the league's worst defenses when deploying man coverage this year without much luck getting to the quarterback. So these are our picks. This is what we're doing here. You can see that we're all on the Ravens. We think the Ravens get a big win against the Titans. And you know what? Okay, I'm going to go to Ryan in a second, but Marcus is shaking his head because when we all pick the same team on this show, the team loses. So anyway, I'm sorry, Ravens, if we've cursed you. It's just ridiculous. I can't believe it. Anyway, we don't discuss our picks before the show. Ryan, let's talk about this game, though, for these two teams. How important is it for them to get back on track?
I mean, this game is extremely important. These are 2 teams that had a distinct identity last year and coming into the season, and they've forgotten about that. They feel fat. They feel happy. I mean, I felt like these teams, had lemonade in the shade with their feet up. I mean, probably eating lemon pepper wings in a freeze cup. Shout out to Gucci. And that's how these teams were playing. They made sure and they got away from what they are. They got away from power football offensively, play action game. They got away from playing good defense. And they have to figure those things out. There was no way you could have told me at the beginning of the season that these 2 teams would be playing after midseason and it wouldn't matter and I wouldn't care and it wouldn't be to see who was going to be at the top of the AFC challenging the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's where these 2 teams has fallen. And so this week is extremely important, not only because they need W's, but because they need to figure out who they are in 2020 and if they can advance being that team in the playoffs this year.
Els, listen, this is one of the, Ryan hit the point. Like, he took a lot of what the reality is. Like, 2 teams searching for themselves because, look, no, that's fire. It's fire. I mean, we think alike sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. But here's the bottom line, right? You think about the Baltimore Ravens and what their expectations were. This was a team we thought would challenge the Kansas City Chiefs. We thought would be right there in the conversation at the end of the year, and they have seemed to not understand who they are or who they're built to be. And this evolution of the passing game that I've been screaming about, forget all of that. Like, the Ravens need to make sure that they at least go into this game with a plan to do what they do. And then vice versa, because what I think is the most important thing and huge is that Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams is not going to play in this game. And the last outing we saw the Baltimore Ravens in, the New England Patriots and Damian Harris ran through them. And last year when we saw these 2 teams play, Derrick Henry went crazy for 190-some odd yards on the ground. So will the Ravens defense stand up this game and not allow the Tennessee Titans to be on schedule, to have Ryan Tannehill comfortable, to have us talking about Derrick Henry on big man balling again next week?
I'm going to end this love fest because while I agree with you about the Titans taking advantage of the Ravens' run defense and the injuries, Marcus, I actually don't agree with you about the Ravens. I think they need to evolve, and I think this is the game to do it. One of the biggest injuries last week was the loss of Nick Boyle, their blocking tight end, one of the best blocking tight ends in football. This is a Ravens offense that already lost their 2 best offensive linemen. They can't run the ball the way they used to. They need to figure out a passing game. Fortunately, in Tennessee, you got a pass rush that'll be missing Jadeveon Clowney. It's the 25th best pass defense in football. This is an opportunity for them to show us that they can pass the football, that they've got a different shade to this offense because the personnel has changed and the offensive scheme needs to evolve with it.
Yeah, one thing for the Ravens, the last time we saw them, it was just a ridiculous weather game and the rain was falling, all that. It should be much better in Baltimore, about 59 degrees at kickoff, so that could factor in and make them feel a whole lot better. All right, a couple weeks ago in San Francisco, Aaron Rodgers told 49ers linebacker Fred Warner that he was the best linebacker in football. You may be like, all right, what does that have to do with Colts linebacker Darius Leonard, who the Packers play this week? But the thing is, Leonard heard about it. He's ready to prove Rodgers wrong. And this could be something to watch in this Packers-Colts game. Listen to what Darius Leonard had to say.
I seen it as soon as he said it. You hear things like that. That just give you that extra motivation to go out and play. I've been looking forward to this game ever since he said it. Just kind of, he's been in the league for a long time, and for him to say that to Fred Warner, they play on twice a year. So my first time, I want to leave a mark and hopefully change his mind of what he said about that.
Darius Leonard's been leaving a mark all over the field, by the way, all season long. How about our picks for this game? We're totally split. The girls are on the Packers. The boys are on the Colts. So we'll see who ends up being right. It'll probably be us, Mina.
You know what that means.
I know. It's going to be, Mina and I are going to be right.
So Mina,
Mina, we're on the Packers. What do you think they need to do to win? Devontae Adams, by the way, Phil Yates reporting earlier in the show, should be good to go for this game.
And that is part of the reason I'm picking them. Rodgers, who, by the way, learned what we all know, which is players do not like it when you rank players. Somebody's going to be offended. He is going to have to win this game for Green Bay by throwing deep, because that, to me, is where the Colts are vulnerable. This defense is very good, but they like to keep the football in front of them. They want you to run. They want you to throw it short. As a result, I think MVS and Devontae Adams are going to be enormous in this game. We're going to see explosive plays if Green Bay is going to win it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the formula, but I also want to give a shout out to what Indy does up front, especially with DeForest Buckner. Obviously, we found out Hartree would be out of this game, which I think he's been coming on and playing out of his mind. Really good football if you watch them up front. But you still have Houston, and this defensive line coached by Brian Baker, who was one of my D-line coaches in Dallas. They are going to understand how to rush and how to keep Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. Look, we know Aaron Rodgers does a tremendous job throwing the football, but I think we forget sometimes that Aaron Rodgers can get on the edges of defenses and really cause havoc, even with his legs, but more so extending plays and being able to hit those deep shots. This Indy defense plays real sound football in the front seven, and I think that's the reason they're going to prevail in this game, and along with being able to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers without having to add any extra rushers.
Yeah, another piece of this is the run game of the Indianapolis Colts. And I know the numbers don't say that the Green Bay Packers are bad against the rush, but you can go back to last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars and see the way that James Robinson was able to run the football on him. And he actually had 2 touchdowns called back. And so I think that's going to be huge for the